What Doris Day really thought about John Denver will move you to tears. She rarely spoke about other artists. Doris Day, Hollywood's eternal sweetheart, spent decades protecting her privacy, choosing her words carefully, giving interviews only when absolutely necessary. But when asked about John Denver, something shifted. Her voice softened. Her eyes grew distant. And she spoke with a warmth and admiration that revealed something deeper than professional respect. "I thought John Denver was one of the most genuine people I ever met in show business," she said. And that is not something you could say about everyone. What Doris Day revealed about John Denver wasn't just praise. It was a window into her soul. A connection between two artists who sang about sunshine and simple joys while carrying private pain the world never fully understood. And when you hear what she said, you'll understand why their bond meant so much. Not because of fame or success, but because they recognized something rare in each other, a light that Hollywood couldn't dim. Doris Day was born Doris Mary Kappelhoff on April 3rd, 1922 in Cincinnati, Ohio. Her childhood was not an easy one. Her parents separated when she was young, and she found comfort in dancing, singing, and performing. Originally, she dreamed of being a professional dancer. But an automobile accident as a teenager shattered that ambition, leaving her with injuries that ended her hopes of pursuing a career on the stage as a dancer. What could have been a devastating setback instead redirected her life toward music. And it was while recovering from the accident that Doris discovered the power of her voice. She began to sing along with the radio, developing the warm, clear tone and perfect phrasing that would later captivate audiences worldwide. Her professional career began in the late 30s and early 40s when she joined local bands and began performing as a vocalist. It was during this time that she adopted the stage name Doris Day, suggested by a band leader who felt her surname was too long and too difficult for audiences to remember. With her natural talent and girl-next-door charm, Doris quickly attracted attention. She became the lead singer with a popular band, and in 1945, she recorded her first huge hit, Sentimental Journey. The song struck a deep emotional chord with American soldiers returning home from World War II, and it established Day as a household name. Her popularity as a singer soon opened the doors to Hollywood, where she transitioned into acting. Doris Day made her film debut in 1948, and audiences immediately fell in love with her fresh-faced beauty, radiant smile, and natural screen presence. Over the next 2 decades, she starred in a series of successful musical comedies, romantic comedies, and dramas, proving her versatility as an actress. Some of her most memorable films showcased her energetic performance and powerful singing voice, winning her critical acclaim. She also starred in an Alfred Hitchcock suspense classic in which she introduced one of her signature songs, Quoy Sarah, Sarah Whatever Will Be, Will Be. Throughout the 50s and 60s, Doris Day became the epitome of wholesome American femininity. She frequently co-starred with leading men in romantic comedies that were wildly successful at the box office and solidified her reputation as the queen of lighthearted romance. Her on-screen chemistry with one co-star in particular became legendary, and the two remained close friends off-screen. Despite her cheerful screen image, Doris Day's personal life was often difficult. She was married 4 times, and many of these relationships ended in heartbreak or financial trouble. Most notably, her third husband and manager mismanaged her money and left her deeply in debt. After his death in 1968, Doris discovered that her fortune had been squandered, and she was forced to take on projects she had not intended, including a television sitcom. Although she initially resisted television, her natural charm and comedic timing made the show a success and helped her recover financially. By the mid-70s, Doris Day chose to step away from the entertainment industry and live a quieter life. She relocated to Carmel by the Sea, California, where she focused her energy on animal welfare, a cause that became her true passion. She founded organizations advocating tirelessly for the humane treatment of animals. Her devotion to protecting animals earned her immense respect and admiration, and she became as well known for her advocacy as for her career in show business. Doris Day remained a private person in her later years, rarely granting interviews and preferring the company of her pets to the Hollywood spotlight. However, her legacy continued to grow as new generations discovered her music and films. Her voice, full of warmth and sincerity, remained timeless. Doris Day's personal life was often as dramatic and complicated as the roles she played on screen, and much of it centered around her 4 marriages, each of which shaped her in different ways. Her first marriage was tumultuous and deeply unhappy. The relationship quickly became abusive, and Day later recounted that he was a controlling man who lashed out in fits of jealousy and rage. When she became pregnant, he pressured her to have an abortion, something she firmly refused. His violent response was horrifying. He physically assaulted her in an attempt to cause a miscarriage. Despite this terrifying ordeal, Doris gave birth to her only child, a son, in 1942. Though Doris divorced him in 1943, the pain of that marriage left lasting scars on her life. After her divorce, Doris sought stability and companionship in her second marriage. But once again, the relationship proved difficult to sustain. The marriage lasted only 3 years. Despite their separation, the two did reconnect briefly in later years, and during that time, he introduced Doris to teachings that would shape her views on health, illness, and the power of prayer. The most significant and longest-lasting of Doris Day's marriages was her third. The two married in 1951, and their union lasted until his death in 1968. He played a pivotal role in Doris's career, producing many of her films and managing much of her professional life. He also legally adopted Doris's son. Following his passing, Doris began to distance herself from certain rigid practices, though she never abandoned the belief system entirely. Instead, she grew close to other spiritual figures who became a source of comfort and inspiration during her grief. Doris Day's fourth and final marriage was to a maitre d' at one of her favorite restaurants. Their relationship began in an unusual but endearing way. Knowing of her great affection for animals, especially dogs, he captured her heart by presenting her with a bag of meat scraps and bones as she left the restaurant, a thoughtful gift for her beloved pets. The couple married in 1976, but the marriage ultimately did not last. Their union ended in divorce in 1982 after 6 years of marriage. He later expressed frustration that Doris's love and attention seemed to be directed more toward her animal friends than toward him. His comments, while bitter, underscored a truth about Doris's life in her later years. Her deepest fulfillment came not from romantic partnerships, but from her bond with her animals. If this story about Doris Day touches your heart, please share it with someone who needs to hear it. When Doris Day was asked in later years about her impressions of John Denver, she spoke with warmth, admiration, and a deep sense of kinship that reflected both her appreciation for his artistry and her recognition of the values he carried into his music. Doris, known for her sunny screen presence and her golden voice, often connected most with artists who sang from the heart. And John Denver was one of those figures who touched her profoundly. "I thought John Denver was one of the most genuine people I ever met in show business," she once said. And that is not something you could say about everyone. For Day, whose career had taken her through the sometimes cutthroat and superficial world of Hollywood, Denver's sincerity was like a breath of fresh air. Day was particularly struck by the way Denver's songs celebrated life, nature, and the simple joys of existence. As she explained, "When I heard him sing about sunshine, about country roads, about the beauty of the mountains, I felt he was singing directly from his soul. There was no pretense. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was sharing his heart." Coming from a woman who had long been associated with wholesome optimism, it is telling that she recognized in Denver a kindred spirit who also carried lightness, hope, and gentleness into the world of entertainment. For Doris, John's music offered the same comfort and positivity she had always tried to give her audiences. Another aspect Doris admired deeply was Denver's humility. Unlike many artists of his stature, Denver never seemed to allow fame to distort his character. He was a superstar, Doris remarked, but he never carried himself like one. He didn't have an ego that filled the room. He had a kindness about him, an openness, and that is rare. Day herself had struggled with the trappings of celebrity, often feeling more at peace with her animals at her Carmel Valley home than in Hollywood circles. That Denver, too, preferred a quieter, more natural lifestyle resonated with her strongly. She found his devotion to environmental causes not only admirable, but essential, calling him a pioneer and reminding us to love and care for the earth. Doris Day also related to John Denver's ability to communicate vulnerability through his songs. Though she had spent her career carefully navigating a wholesome image, her recordings often revealed a woman with great emotional depth. Songs carried a sense of longing and tenderness that paralleled the bittersweet honesty of Denver's ballads. John could take a simple lyric and make you feel the ache of it, she explained. He had a gift for showing his heart in a way that never felt forced. It was simply who he was. To Doris, this was the true mark of artistry. Not technical perfection alone, but the courage to let the world glimpse one's innermost self. The two also shared a connection through their mutual love of animals and advocacy for compassion. Day, of course, dedicated the latter half of her life to her Animal Welfare Foundation, tirelessly campaigning for the humane treatment of creatures great and small. Denver similarly used his platform to support not only environmental awareness, but also humane causes. Doris noted this alignment with gratitude. "It meant a lot to me to see someone with his fame use it for something more than applause. He cared about the world, about creatures who had no voice, and that to me is the highest purpose of celebrity." Day was candid too about the tragedy of Denver's untimely passing in 1997. She admitted that his death left her with a profound sense of loss. "I cried when I heard the news," she confessed. "It felt like the world had lost a gentle poet. We don't have enough of those." For someone like Doris, who had survived the ups and downs of Hollywood, the premature loss of a voice so full of light was a poignant reminder of the fragility of life. She often wished his legacy would be cherished by younger generations, not only for the melodies but for the message of hope, simplicity, and respect for nature that his music carried.